I came back from walking 500 kilometers across Italy feeling more restored than after some vacations. That made no sense to me. Walking all day with a 10-kilo backpack should have left me exhausted, and yet it didn't. A few weeks after I got home, a friend asked me a question. So, do you miss it? At first, I thought they meant the obvious things: the scenery, the medieval towns, the vineyards, the wine, the churches, the strange collection of monasteries, hostels, and guest houses that became home for a night and then disappeared behind me the next morning. And the honest answer was yes, of course I missed those things. But the question lingered in my head, because the more I thought about it, the less certain I became about what exactly I was missing. For a while, I thought the answer was adventure. That seems obvious enough. During those weeks, I stayed in places that sometimes felt almost unreal. One night, I slept in an old monastery that had been converted into a hostel with furniture that looked as though somebody had simply stood up and left decades ago. Another night, I found myself completely alone in a stone house in the middle of nowhere, with no phone, strange noises, and at the same time, complete surrender into the silence. There were moments that felt almost cinematic, and it was tempting to believe that this was the thing I missed. Maybe I wasn't missing the walk at all. Maybe I was simply missing the adventure. But after a while, I started noticing something that didn't quite fit that explanation. The places were memorable, but they weren't what I thought about most often. What stayed with me was something much more ordinary. At some point, the day settled into rhythm. I knew when I would wake up. I knew roughly when I would start walking. I knew how long I would be on the road. I knew when I would shower, eat, do my reading, and retire for the night. The routine didn't feel restricted. It felt like relief. That's when I realized what I actually missed. Every morning, the route was there. The next town was there. My job was simple: walk, eat, shower, get to bed, and do it again tomorrow. There were still decisions to make, of course: which route variation to take, whether to stop now or later, what to buy in the supermarket. But compared to normal life, the number of things requiring my attention had shrunk dramatically. I don't think I fully understood that until I got home. One of the first things at home I had to do was think about food. Not eat food, plan food. During the pilgrimage, food had become surprisingly simple. I would walk into supermarket, buy a few things that covered my nutritional needs, throw them together, eat, and continue walking. It wasn't exciting, but it did the job. Back home, the question immediately became different. What are we eating this week? What do I need to buy? What needs to be prepared? What does everybody like? What have we already run out of? None of those questions are difficult. Standing in my own kitchen, though, I suddenly notice how much mental space they occupy. Not because the single decision is exhausting, but because there are hundreds of them. Looking back, I don't think the pilgrimage restored me because it was comfortable. It wasn't comfortable. My feet hurt, some days were long, some nights were noisy. There were blisters, sore muscles, and mornings when I would happily accept a ride to the next town. What it gave me was something else. For a few weeks, I wasn't responsible for nearly as many things. The day had a direction before I woke up. Most of the choices had already been made. My attention wasn't constantly being pulled from one small responsibility to the next. I still enjoy vacations. I still enjoy comfortable hotels. And if somebody offered me a sea view room tomorrow, I would happily accept it. But after that pilgrimage, I stopped assuming that comfort and restoration are the same thing. Sometimes they are, and sometimes they aren't. Sometimes what restores us isn't being pampered. Sometimes it's carrying fewer things. And some of those things aren't in the backpack. Vacation change the scenery, but they don't reduce what your mind is carrying. And I think sleep can work the same way. You can spend enough hours in bed, track the right numbers, improve the sleep routine, and still wake up feeling as if something didn't actually recover. That's what I want to look at next. When rest is technically happening, but restoration still isn't.